get excited because people are coming up with solutions to big problems, and those solutions are really exciting, and they're going to be game changers. So keep your eye on ingenuity, because there's a lot of people creating things.
Welcome to Clicks and Bricks Podcast. We talk about the entrepreneur mindset.
If you get one shot at this, what kind of shot are you going to take?
If we forget who we are, they're going to forget who you are.
You've got an adversity story that's out of this world.
Everything from that Main Street brick and mortar to that billion-dollar manufacturer.
Today we've got Brandon from Weatherskin. He makes a line of products that helps your building stay waterproof or be more energy efficient. How are you doing today, Brandon?
Great, Ken. Thanks for having us on the show.
Thanks for joining us. What city are you coming from?
Calgary, Alberta.
Alberta.
Canada.
Oh, all right. Fantastic. And can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what it is that Weatherskin Coatings does today?
Yeah, absolutely. Brandon Carville, founder of Weatherskin Coatings. It's been a company that's operating for around 6 years now. And as a serial entrepreneur, I'm always looking for solutions to bring to the market. And so that's what we really create. We create solutions in the form of coatings and waterproofing, things that are going to protect the environment, the user, products that are going to protect the structure that we're putting them on and the environment that structure lives in. So that's really our core value principle here at Weatherskin, is to offer protection and offer solutions.
Fantastic. And your primary customer is the contractor, or the builder, or the architect, right?
You bet. Yeah. If you have on the one end of the spectrum, the architects and engineers, we're always trying to drive our products into build specifications, and
right.
And then you've got the GCs kind of in the middle, the property managers, and then
right.
The contractors, because they're actually out there doing the applications and getting boots on the ground and putting it on walls and ceilings and floors.
Fantastic. So you started Weatherskin Coatings about 6 years ago. 7 years ago, you were a home builder with a bunch of different building projects running. Can you tell us a little bit about what the decision to, leave that past business that you started and start Weatherskin, what that was like, and why you did that?
Yeah, to give you a little background on me, so I'd been involved in construction since an early age of 16, and was doing it part-time while doing high school. And then after school, I started a business doing outdoor construction right away. That transitioned into a larger entity where we were doing full homes as a subcontractor for home builders, and then that evolved into a home building entity in itself. So that process, I'd always been tied to construction. I had dabbled in a couple other product-based businesses, building trailers for the off-road community, and I really enjoyed it. But I always enjoyed construction. I got the Lego brain, putting things together. So that it was always challenging. I always found it a good creative outlet. Every day it presents a new challenge, which is what I like to call problems. So new challenges, and you can always find new solutions. But at the end of that business, it required a lot of my body. It was a service-based business, so I was kind of tied to the quality of the product that was being output, and that expectation for me to be very present and very live on every site that we were on was always there, and that pressure was always there, and I ended up injuring myself. So just a small fall off of a second run only of a ladder, and it hurt my back. So that injury forced me to step back from the business and reassess what I wanted to do. I handed it off to one of the guys that was part of the business with me, and I said, you take it, and it's still in existence today. And he sometimes works on special projects for Weatherskin now. That's kind of a neat synchronicity we've been able to build there. but I said, you know, as much as I love being out there and being those boots on the ground, it's cold here in Calgary, you know, and it's long winters and it's early mornings and it's scraping ice off the windshield. So I started to look at what products were we using in the process that I was involved in, and what didn't I like about them, and starting to look, is there better solutions? Is there other markets or industries that are offering better solutions, that if we were able to capture that chemistry and produce it and distribute it on a larger scale, could we drive the price down where then it could be brought into residential or commercial construction as a viable and affordable option? So really what it looked like, Ken, was I had no idea what I was going to do at first. I signed a year-long lease downtown on a home office space. It was a second space, and had no idea what I was going to do to really pay for it. But I put a whiteboard on the wall and a cork board, and I brought a laptop and a chair. And from that, I knew I had to have an idea and generate a business plan. And I've always felt in and of myself that I operate the best when I'm under pressure. So
that's pressure for sure.
Myself into a comfy corner and got to work and started to fill up the whiteboard.
And from that came up with Weatherskin, which is a whole, you said you had about 50 SKUs today?
We had about, just over 50 SKUs, product SKUs.
And that's all products that wrap around weatherizing commercial and residential buildings, or making them more energy efficient. You
bet. Yeah, that's a good summary.
Fantastic. That's important stuff. I know, we're in the middle of, March of 22. We're, leaving the pandemic. We're in what appears to be an energy crisis or vastly heading towards an energy crisis if it's not there already, right? So maintaining the energy that we're creating and keeping the homes at the right temperature that uses less energy is a good thing. That's good for the planet. So thank you for finding the solution and making that the world a better place, right? In any way that you possibly can. Now, you took a fall, your back's hurt, you built the company that you love, and you have to make the decision now to hand that off to somebody else, right? Now, luckily for you, you've had a person that's working there for a long time, and you trusted them, obviously, because you had this transition period. Can you tell us a little bit about the mindset of, how did that, a lot of entrepreneurs, when I talked about, getting rid of the company or whatever, it's like losing their child, right? I mean, you poured everything you had into this company, and this particular company even gave you a pretty good injury, right? A big enough one to leave it. How were your emotions through that? And then, how did that motivate you or give you the confidence on this next journey?
You know what? I think in that venture, the creative process was what I was really married to emotionally, and it wasn't necessarily the business itself or what we were doing. I just loved making clients happy and offering something that was superior in terms of quality for a finished product. So I knew that about the business and about myself. So I just took that and carried over. I don't have to lose that. What is the real heart and soul of that business? What do I really like? I can carry that over to something else. So am I really losing what matters out of that business? Absolutely not. Not if I can bring it into Weatherskin. And Weatherskin can be an improvement upon that, the business concept that I had formerly. So the fear going into it is you're starting essentially at scratch again, and you're in a challenging marketplace, one that requires you to have a lot of field testing, a lot of third-party testing, R&D research. So there's a lot of foundation building in this new business. There's a lot of branding, marketing, all these resources that have to be now freshly built. But again, that's part of the process I really like. I like not only building a building, but building a business.
Right.
So,
So do you design the products, or do you have a company that you hire to design your products for you?
So I myself am not a chemist,
Okay.
but what we're really good at, being former contractors, being tied to the community, is asking questions. I find a lot of these guys, the very large corporate entities, have even come to us about R&D work because it gets lost. That connection with the market and the client and the consumer gets lost along the way at a certain size. So we're able to be a little more intimate and find out, like, what ideally, what do you want these products to do? What would those improvements look like? We have our own opinions, but then if you ask your consumer base, you'll get such good feedback. And so, you know, sometimes they'll design in their minds, or will design something that seems like it shouldn't exist or won't exist. But then you start to look at people that are the actual chemists, these facilities or entities that are making chemistry maybe for one client at a time, and they have incredible formulations and incredible knowledge, and they really have the ability to tweak something to make it do what you want with enough research and backing. So finding those people was key. You know, I always say hire smarter than myself.
Right.
So in anything. So I'm always looking to bring in people with more of a professional pedigree in that part of the business than I can offer, or that the people that we currently have offer, because that we want them to then excel and take the business further. And with the product manufacturing, there are people that do that they have a whole bunch of chemistry that is not being marketed, it's not being distributed, it's not being mass produced, simply because their business, they like the challenge of creating it, but they don't know how to then bring it to market and sell it. So there's a lot of products sitting on shelves that are really good opportunities, that you can purchase the IP, or you can purchase the distribution rights to that chemistry. And then if you know how to sell it and bring it to market, and you know the audience, well, then there's a lot of potential to bring solutions that way.
Wonderful. Okay. So is there like a local chemist shop that you go to, or is that something you got to do a lot of research on? Is there one near you, or is this something you got to find nationwide?
Well, Ken, when I started, I looked at every corner of the globe.
Right.
I knew what I wanted, but I didn't know where to find it. So I was contacting technical institutes, coating manufacturers. I looked at engineering things freshly from ground up, and I got pointed back to a place that is local to the Alberta market space. I got pointed to them from a fella in Germany and from the US. So here I am looking all over the globe, and they said, the guy you want to talk to is in the same city that you live in.
Okay.
So he, what started that was, I noticed that the oil and gas industry has a whole bunch of products to protect tanks that don't degrade foam. So a lot of building construction uses foam on the outside of buildings now, whether it's ICF or extruded panels, rigid foams. These coatings protected foam insulated tanks that have metal underneath that are above ground. So my spec that I was looking for was a new waterproofing product that is acrylic base instead of a solvent or a tar, that had high flexibility, UV stability, and that wouldn't degrade foam, because I wanted to bring it into foundations. I wanted to bring it into general building constructions,
right,
projects. And they said, well, there's a company that these oil and gas companies use as a consultant to create these products right here at home. And they've been in the field, but only for maybe one specific client, and it's performed impossibly well for over 30 years.
Wow.
And to give you an idea, other waterproofing, below grade waterproofing products, if you go into any data sheet, it tells you that that warranty is null and void if you leave it in the sun for more than 72 hours, 2 weeks, maybe maximum a month. So that you got to backfill it quickly. This product, it's made to sit out in the sun. So right there we knew, okay, it's waterproof. It's not water resistant. It's not a hot applied rubber. You can spray it on, you don't have to heat it up. So there's not a risk of burns. There's no VOCs or HAPs, which are, a VOC is a volatile organic compound. So something that will leach out of the solution during curing and sometimes even afterwards. And a HAP is a hazardous airborne particle. While you're spraying, what are you breathing in? So here we've got this really green, clean, economical solution that's made with polymers, which 5 years ago, 6 years ago, were kind of cutting edge technology over traditional monomers and plastics and rubbers. And it's, nobody knows about it. You know, they've created it, it's there for 30 years. So that, adopting that model where we found existing chemistry like that, procured either the chemistry or the rights to distribute, allowed us also at the same time to procure a bunch of clients, a bunch of history, a bunch of data, a bunch of testing. So we didn't have to go through that painful process of being the new kid on the block. You know, here's your brand new product with no proof of concept. And
right.
It's going to be a very long road to market in that case, and very expensive. So
yeah.
We were able to leapfrog that in a way.
That's really good. I always hear people talk about the early bird gets the worm, and I'm like, well, sometimes you forget that the early mouse gets the trap, right? So buying previously existing intellectual property and bringing that to market makes a lot of sense, especially with something that has to do with, you know, as much chemistry and research and development that you're doing. I think that's a brilliant play, and it sped your speed to market up tremendously, right? You'd be, because you got to buy the rights to distribute this product or the intellectual property. You had 30 years of testing and all that behind it already. So, and then you just repurpose that for a different market, basically.
Repurpose it, yeah. I mean, the challenge when it's just a product that's made solely, say, to do one tank a year,
right.
Well, you're not buying the raw goods in bulk, right? You've got the shipping tacked on. You've got all these surcharges tacked on to the cost associated with building that product, that you end up with a price tag of $1,500 for 5 gallons. And that's not viable when you're competing in the waterproofing market in construction, where they're looking at $150 for 5
right.
gallons. Like,
but if you can get economies of scale of doing giant barrels, then everybody wins.
Yeah, correct. We can bring the good chemistry to the market. We just have to produce enough of it, which then leads us to marketing and selling the product.
Right. Fantastic. That is a wonderful thing. So, all right. So now you've got your product, you've got your service, or you got your products together. You know how you're going to sell them. You're in business. You're off to the races. So everything's just good from there on out, and you're just chugging along, selling your new services, and everything's great. Or were there other challenges that you did not think about prior to this business that you went into?
Oh, there was a lot of challenges, Ken.
Okay. Can you share like what some of your favorite stories where you had to overcome something just absolutely insane that you never saw coming?
Yeah, I mean the best laid plans, right? Like instead of having a plan, I like to have a direction, because I know I'm going to get steered off that road. It's never going to be a straight line as long as I try and go due north. No, the challenges to the entirety of this company is we didn't realize the expectation of the consumer at this level too is they want a larger product offering. So, I mean, starting out with one product wasn't getting us where we wanted to be. We wanted to grow fairly aggressively in terms of our marketplace footprint, and we didn't, and people want interior products, they want exterior products, they want seasonal products. So we started something, everybody liked the solution, and then they wanted more solutions. So we kind of built this, the original business off of the idea of having one product offering and bringing that to market. And then we started looking at competitive coatings companies and what they can offer, and started getting really interested in other solutions. So the growth plan and what the company in the end was going to look like really changed, which really changed the requirement for additional CapEx, OpEx, and expansion. And we were self-funding. We tried to self-fund for as long as we possibly could, and realized that with the changing codes and legislation, all wanting to promote products like ours with green offerings, because like you mentioned, low CO2 emissions, low emissions products, recycling programs, waterborne products, all of these things, net zero housing, they started designing specifications for how to build them, and thresholds for what products had to have, and different certifications for which engineering or ASTM or third-party testing you had to have. So the continuous R&D was definitely something an expense that we didn't foresee in terms of the enormity of it, and then we have to multiply that over our 50 some odd products.
Right.
So yes, we did not plan for how attractive an offering we actually had, and how much more consumers would want from us, which led to some really tough times, Ken. There was times in this business where it was run on faith and hope, and knowing that we had a good product and a good service, right? And we didn't have the resources, but at times, but we had the network that helped us out. So when we were in those situations, and we talked about it, just as we're talking about it right now, and we talked about it to the people in our strategic partners, the people in our core groups, everybody wanted to help us out because they saw what we were doing. People started to get involved, when we shared it with our team, they said, what can we do? So having a really strong culture in those times, a culture of team building and working as a family, and being really inclusive, and then also being really solution based, asking how can we be of service to our community rather than what can we get from them. People saw that, and people were willing to help us out through that. It's hard to be in those corners, and my advice would be just chug through and keep going, because you're probably almost there. But you got to talk about it. You got to talk about the solutions you have, but you talk about where you're at too.
Right.
And
I know I hear it from a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs. They say owning a business or being an entrepreneur is a really lonely game. It's kind of weird. It's a double-edged sword, because you're always around people, but you're also all by yourself, right? Because you're the only one that has some of the trials and tribulations that you're dealing with. You can't share that with everybody. So having a big network and teams that you can lean on for different scenarios, financial team, legal team, tech team, I think those things are so important in figuring out how to navigate the waters and what to do next throughout the whole thing. And I can't stress it enough. And I know people say, oh, I don't need a coach, or I've got enough technical chops, or, these kinds of things. The number one thing that I see consistently amongst successful business owners is a good, solid network, mentorship, coaching, whatever that might look like. But it's a recurring theme that I always hear, of that support from family or other mentors. So I think that's right down the center of the line for me. It hits home pretty hard. Now,
who else knows exactly what you're going through, right? The other entrepreneurs and the other business owners, they share in those same stresses, that same life. And
Yeah, I mean,
And
it's only a business owner that's had to scratch his head a couple days. Like, man, I got payroll in 2 days, and I got to pay 50 people. I'm not really sure exactly how I'm gonna figure that out yet. And then still figure it out somehow, right? And some days you scratch your head like, man, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. But it always seems to work out. So just keep moving forward and have the faith. And like you quit your other company and started a company with no products, right? And the jump in the nut will appear is definitely a repeating theme that I hear as well, right? Have confidence in yourself and move forward, and what you need will appear, right? It always happens. And if it doesn't, worst case scenario, you shut the business down and you go back in Uber or do something else for a little while, right? And you figure it out. Now you've got this business, you've got 50 different SKUs. Some things you manufacture in-house, some things you outsource. Is there if somebody's thinking about, hey, I want to start manufacturing something, is there any advice that you have on when should I manufacture in-house or when should I outsource my manufacturing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in-house it's always a really good viable solution for a local market, and just outwards of that. But keep in mind that there's always somebody with way more buying power than you and way more access to logistics and way more facility locations. So if I have my one facility that's buying, 100 tons of raw good, and that's a lot. But then you look at, say, a toll manufacturer and they're buying 100 million tons. Who's getting the better price, right? So sometimes an entrepreneur will think, hey, it's more viable and it's going to be more profitable for me to manufacture my own product. But they're not considering the cost of the safety, the facility, the utilities, the equipment, the staffing that goes into that investment. And sometimes producing your own pail of product is actually more expensive than relying on, when I say a toll manufacturer, I mean a manufacturer that manufactures for a whole bunch of entities, and their whole business is built on security. So not leaching out IP from one brand to another. And those guys, the big companies, we've realized actually all use those guys, because if they go out and do it on their own, there's a whole bunch of liability associated with it. There's asset management, and sometimes it's easier to let a third party do it, and sometimes it's cheaper, and they probably have facilities that are closer to your consumer base too. So the price isn't doubling because you got to put it on a truck and send it to Florida. Well, they got a facility in Florida, or they're tied to another party distribution network. So I would say know your audience and your market space, and geographically where does that exist, and then look at those kind of costs too. If you want to determine if it actually is more feasible, look at not only the financial costs, but look at the time costs. How valuable are you and your current core team? Are you going to be able to continue to market and sell your product if you're constantly being sucked into the production attributes of your business?
Right. I think it has to do that I would manufacture in-house if the person that manufactured it created some kind of additional value, like a Shelby Mustang, right? That the team that built it, that creates some additional value. That's when I would really consider manufacturing in-house. Outside of that, unless I really want to denote tout American made or something like that, hand stitched, those kinds of terms do sell. But typically, I think most of the time it's more beneficial to outsource your manufacturing. Most of the time.
I believe. I mean, there's a risk. You really have to research: is it an entity that can be trusted? Because then you see 8 variants of your product going out the door. Because we hold a lot of testing and certifications. We're also really bound to a certain ISO standard of doing that production and that manufacturing, where you whip something at a different speed, or you heat it up for a minute longer or a degree higher, or you add a pinch extra into the formulation, you've now essentially, in the minds of these regulatory boards, you've created a new product.
Right.
So because you've altered the recipe, right?
Yep.
So if you want to have that control over the recipe and the quality, it's got to be labs that follow in line with those same standard sets or certifications.
Right. Awesome. Brandon, I've had such a good time today talking with you and learning about your business. If somebody was out there and they're a manufacturer, home builder, commercial builder, and they wanted to do some research on your products, how would they get in touch with you?
They would visit, if they visit the website, they can call us directly, they can email us, but we've also got some handy request and estimate forms on there. So if you have any kind of project, big or small, go through, fill out the form. It doesn't cost you anything for us to send you an estimate back and find out more about your project and how we can help.
Wonderful. Is there anything you would like to leave the audience with? Some final words.
You know what, Ken? It's I think we're coming out of kind of a volatile time in history and in the marketplace in North America and in construction, but there's a lot of promise out there. Starting to get back to the builder shows, see these innovative technologies that have been brewing the last couple of years when nobody's been out able to visit each other and see them. And there's a lot of exciting advancement in terms of both build systems, build products coming. Get excited because people are coming up with solutions to big problems, and those solutions are really exciting, and they're going to be game changers. So keep your eye on ingenuity, because
absolutely
there's a lot of people creating things out there.
A lot of opportunity in almost every marketplace today, right? Across the board, with the housing market, with the energy market, with the IT and software market. It's really, really exciting time to be alive. I know that we have a lot of new challenges that are in front of us as well, coming out of COVID, and the whole Russia thing that's going on right now is just horrible. But with all of that, there is a lot of opportunity for businesses and business owners out there. So it's been a lot of fun. Thank you for your time today, Brandon. I very much appreciate it.
Thank you, Ken. Thanks for having us.
That's it for today's show, folks. If you'd like to join my text line community, you can text me any question about business or technology, and I'll send you an absolutely unbiased free answer. The number is 314-370-2871. Get to work.